back to my channel. My name is Sarah. I've been an educator for the past 10 years, both in classrooms as well as in outdoor ed settings. And I have a 10-year-old daughter that this year I am doing distance learning with. In this channel, we discuss how to make e-learning, distance learning, online learning, whatever you're calling it, learning at home, more effective and more fun for parents as well as for students. So today I have a celebration, a rose. A rose, you say, Sarah? Yeah, check out my last video to figure out why I'm calling it a rose, but it's a celebration. I took a behavior and a struggle that my daughter and I were having and worked through the process that I'm about to lay out today of setting up expectations. And we were able to change that behavior and have it be a lot more positive. So she was getting very upset every time that I had to give her some corrective feedback. And through the process that I'm gonna lay out for you today, and we changed it into a win for both of us. Also, I've been hearing from friends and clients that one of the hardest things about doing this is juggling adult workload in the midst of it. So how do I get to my Zoom call? How do I get to my own business and work while I'm at home with my kids? And going through this process of setting up expectations and setting up clear consequences and having that be a routine that you go through will help you get back your own work life in the midst of this, right? Teachers know how to do this. We do it all the time. In fact, halo effect, that's what I call it. I often see the best side of kids because I'm not their parent and because I set up these expectations in the classroom. So I'm going to help you do that with your own kid today. I said setting up expectations with kids. Okay, the first week of school, kids go through this process everywhere. And some teachers do it really well and some don't. Charlie Brown's teacher didn't do it so well, right? So we want to avoid being boring and talking, and we also want to avoid being authoritarian. No. The key word here is with your students. And think about it like this. You've had some bosses that have done this really well, that have created a work culture where you're excited to go to work and you're excited to perform. And that's what you want to create for your kids. Step one. You are going to want to brainstorm with your co-pod leaders, your spouse, whoever it is that's teaching with you. And you're going to want to talk about what are the problems that you're facing? What are the thorns that are coming up that you want to reshape? What behavior is not working for you? How do you want to be treated? That's a great question to ask with your pod. Only one person, only one adult from the pod needs to be there to go through this discussion with the kids. So I know a lot of you are juggling a lot of different schedules and it's like Monday the kids are there and Wednesday they're over here. And so as long as one person is willing to lead this with the kids in the pod, it'll work. Two, then you're going to get the kids to brainstorm. Because remember, this is about empowering them. This is about giving them a voice and giving them a sense that what they think matters. Okay, so give them a piece of paper or a journal and you take one too, because you're going to do this brainstorming with them, even though you've already done a little bit of thinking ahead of time. Why is education important? Okay, if you're working with teenagers or middle schoolers, you know, you might get a lot of blah, education's not important. Okay, so what you can do to remind them is, what about, you're learning about learning. Why is it important to practice the skill of learning? Okay, so take it out of the realm of school if they have a bad experience or a bad attitude. We do the why first because this is where you're going to inspire them. All right, I know 2020 has been a rough year on so many accounts for so many people in different ways, right? And we all kind of just want to get through it. I've heard a bunch of people talk about, oh, when 2021 rolls around, it's going to be so much better. But I think we all know that the date change is not going to magically make it better. What's going to make it better is us engaging right now. Number two, how do you want to be treated? Okay, and this is going to get to those attitudes and respect and helps us feel safe. And if we feel safe, if that bottom of Maslow's chart is taken care of, then we have a lot more capacity to focus on learning. And question number three is, what actions and attitudes are going to help you be successful? Actions are going to help your kids create agreements that hold them to a classroom culture or work culture that is going to have them being high performing, and being kind and compassionate. Very important thing. Step number 3. This is where you're going to actually create the agreements and sign it. So everyone's going to get a chance to share what they've written, okay? So have each kid share what they've written. And as they're sharing, you put it in bullet point form and get really clear and specific with them and make it a positive. So if one of the question or one of the answers that they share is, I don't want people to yell at me. Okay, well, what do you want? You can ask them. Okay, I want them to be nice to me. What does nice look like? Okay, so get really specific. Keep asking those questions for each kid, and tell them, hey, if something you've written is already up there, we'll just put a check mark by it when you read it, because you'll see that a lot of people have similar desires here, right? And then you also get to share as the adult, and this is where you bring in those other pod members and your own sense of what's important to be on this chart. There's some tricks to this for you. So first of all, take one statement that's big and broad and that has a condition in it. So for me, that one was, in this classroom, we work during work time so that we can play during playtime. And that's a really big topic, right? And that's something that you can apply to anything. You can apply that to teenagers checking out of lessons that are on the computer and texting their friends instead, right? Because that's not working during work time. That's playing during work time. So if you can think of something broad like that, that's an important value of yours, you can include that there. Another thing you can do is you can take one of those specific behaviors you want to change. Okay, and you can work that in. So my example was we try to apply feedback before disregarding it. Remember my daughter, she couldn't take that feedback. So that was something that I wanted on that chart. Okay, and then get everyone to sign it. And guys, this is a powerful document. This document needs to be printed and hung up, and the other pod members need to sign it as well. And in my classroom, we even used to have the substitutes sign it. There's more in that. It's a little ritual, right? Number 4, brainstorm your consequences. All right, and this is actually hilarious because kids will often put really heavy consequences for minor infractions, okay? And it shows you that kind of disparity that they have in that guilt and their own desire to do well. They really do have that until somewhere around 11. Then they're going to try and sneak by with as little as much as possible, most of them. So be aware of your age group as you're doing this, okay? But brainstorm the consequences. And this is where my last video I talked about having faux bank accounts. This is where you could be subtracting some money from those faux bank accounts because you want this to be low stakes. I know for me right now, I don't want to take away my daughter's social time. Like that takes a lot of work for me to structure in a way that feels safe with all the social distancing. And she needs that like water right now. She needs her peers because she's not in the classroom. So that's not negotiable for me. What is negotiable is television, video games, media, desserts. Although I really don't like to tie food in here because I feel like that has some negative effects for our long-term longevity and health, but maybe you do, so that's on the table. And this bank account, right? So think of some low-stake things that are still going to be high impact for them. The step 5 is the most important. Have you ever trained a dog or a horse or a bird? It's all about consistency, right? I worked with this veteran teacher who was an amazing teacher, and one of the things she did really well is she held kids accountable to our agreements. She did it in a way that was very respectful, and she used questions. Anytime I notice kids breaking an agreement that's on our contract, I will say to them, question number 1, are you keeping our agreements? Okay? That way I'm not attacking them, just asking a question. Diffuses the situation. Question number 2. What are you going to do differently? How are you going to change it? Okay, question number 3, what happens if you do this again? Okay, so I feel like kids do need a gentle reminder. They need one reminder. Okay, and that's to start with. If they're consistently breaking one of these agreements, I stop giving reminders. Okay, and I can just look at them. There's a look, right? The teacher look. You'll develop your own, I'm sure. Maybe you already have it as a parent. I'm sure you do. One reminder is this whole series of questions. This is the routine that you go through. And if kids get accustomed to you going through this routine, it helps this moment where they break that agreement go much more smoothly. Okay? Because they're not in trouble. They're not scared. They know, oh, she's calling me out on that and I need to change my behavior. This is where I want to also include some information that comes from Love and Logic. Okay, they're linked down below. It's another organization that you can check out that really helps remove power struggles. Okay, so when I come to this moment with a kid where they're breaking one of our social agreements, I start by just making a sound. That stops me from getting angry. If I start to notice my blood pressure is rising, I'm going to try and just make that sound. And then I'm going to go through this series of questions because they don't need me to be angry to see that they're breaking this agreement. They just need me to hold them to our agreements with consistency. You might ask, how can I use this process to limit my interruptions, to get more work done? This is about, in the process of setting up your expectations, being really clear with them that one of your expectations is, I want to be able to focus. You need to be able to focus. Okay? And one of the things that I've done in my classroom is I had a visual cue. You remember this visual cue? Yeah, the college dorm room do not enter cue. Well, I didn't use that, obviously. I would put on a yellow scarf. I told my kids, I had an explicit conversation with them, was when I'm wearing this yellow scarf, I am working with this one student or this one group of students in front of me. Because remember, I was in a Montessori classroom. I was teaching 3 different grade levels. Each of those grade levels was broken up into at least 2 subgroups. So I was working with very small groups of kids at a time while the rest of the classroom was busy doing their independent work. That's what you want to set up in your home classroom. You want to empower your kids to continue working without you having to be there to hold their hand. And the way you do that is these 3 things. First, everyone in this room is a teacher. Everyone has knowledge. That is huge power, and it's true. The kids can help each other a lot, and they learn so much in the process. And this is where you want to point out to them that teaching, they are practicing management skills. Okay, and these management skills later on are rewarded with higher pay. Managers always get paid more than just employees, right? So you're practicing the skill of communicating, teaching, assisting others, and that is a management skill. Hey, if you can't answer this question, and if your brother or your sister or your pod member can't answer it, well then flag it. Get these little Post-it notes. Kids love things like this. It's like they become like toys. So you have to be explicit about how they use them, but flag it. And this is a great strategy for life. If you come to something in your work that you can't do, put a little sticky note on it if it's a piece of paper, or skip it and come back to it. And this is going to help them develop that executive function. Or if they're very overwhelmed by it, they can take a brain break. And my next video is going to be about brain breaks specifically, so we'll get into that. But for now, you could just tell them, take 5 minutes, do something else, come back to it. Okay? So this is going to give you your work life back if this is one of the expectations you set up. And again, if they start interrupting you during your Zoom call, all you have to say is, are you keeping our agreements? What are you going to do about it? And what happens if you do it again? I hope that you enjoy this process. I hope that it's helpful for you to get your work life back and to stop the power struggles. And beyond that, this is the process that teachers go through that is the civic and social education. You're laying down the pathwork of what is normal, and we want our kids to have a voice in our rules, right? We want them to feel empowered and inspired to be helpful and to feel like where they are is safe. It's really hard for teachers to do this through a screen. So parents, if you can apply this and it helps you and it helps them, it's creating the future, our civic future. So happy teaching, like and subscribe and comment below. Adios.